Welcome to Blonde Cards and Crafts. Let's make something together. Hello everyone. Today we're going to make this. It's a corner easel card and I'm using some of the products that came from Cardmaking and Papercraft magazine. If you go to page 10 in the magazine, you'll see this fabulous spread called Polar Pals, and in it they're showcasing this corner easel card. I thought it was cool. I've never made one before. I had a look at the directions and I thought, you know what, I'm going to have a go at this. Now, I wasn't quite sure about how they did the stand, but I came up with my own little twist on it. So I'm using the stamps that came in the set, some of the papers that came free in the magazine, as well as the ephemera or the die cut toppers. I've popped them all out of their sheets and put them into that little bag there that you saw. Okay, so I have everything ready here and I have it all set out on my scoreboard. And I've got all the pieces here. I'm just going to move them out of the way and I'm going to show you this big piece of card that I have here. It measures 8 by 8 and then we're going to score it at 4 the whole way down. Then we're going to turn the card and score it again at 4 the whole way down. Now, we've got to make these little score lines at a triangular angle. And you can see here I have some blue Sharpie lines and some pink ones. And I find it really handy when I need to make a score like this. So I have put the middle and then the middle. So you can see there's the middle on one side and the middle of the other. And then I've used my score tool to give me that score line. So again, I'm going to bring it to the center score line that's on my card, down to the center score line at the other side, and that will give me this diagonal line that I need between the two. And I found that was the easiest for me. Then you can see there at the bottom, I have a cut line. That was a score line. I took my scissors and I cut right up to the middle. So I have my cut line at the bottom and I have my 2 folds at the top. Where the cut line is, it allows us to fold one side over the other and gives us this fabulous corner easel card. I love it. I think it's so cool. It's so different and so unusual with these little corner pieces and how you just fold over one side on top of the other to make it sit, and it will sit perfectly on your counter or mantelpiece, wherever. It doesn't look great there now because it's open, but once we have all the mats and layers, and we are going to need 4 little corner mats for the top and 2 for the bottom. So first of all, we have 2 pieces of card. This red mat layer measures 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and we're going to need 4 of those. With 2 of them, we're going to cut them diagonally from one corner to the other. So you'll need 2 of these squares cut and 2 left whole. So I'm just going to pop these down so you can see. I had my mat layer, which was 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and then I cut it straight down through the middle. Now I used my trimmer. If you're confident with using a scissors, you can do that. I just put the points at each end there. There's a little metal piece in the middle that guides, and then you pop through your blade and it cuts it in half. And that way you come out with these 2 pieces. So as I said, we started with 4 of these red matte layers and we've taken 2 of them and we've left them whole, and we've taken the other 2 and we've cut them diagonally from the top left hand corner down to the bottom right hand corner, and they'll be our mats and layers on top of our green card base. So I'm just positioning the 2 mats on the top, which have been cut diagonally, and the 2 at the bottom, just to show you that's how they'll sit on our card base. So that's great. We have our mats done. Now we have another piece of card, and this measures 3.5 by 3.5, and this is the piece that will be the base of our card. We will need a matte layer for that in red, and that'll be 3 3/4 by 3 3/4. I've forgotten to cut it. I don't know how I managed that, but there you go. So these are the corner pieces that we're going to put on our red matte layers. These pieces measured 3.5 by 3.5, and again I've cut them diagonally down the middle. Now if you have directional paper, you need to make sure that you know it isn't upside down or wrong side right or whatever. So that's what I've done with those. This piece here is one of the die cuts or ephemera pieces that came with the magazine, and this piece measures 1 3/4 by 1 1/4. And I also have a little sentiment piece here, 2.5 by 1 1/8. So now we have all our pieces ready just to assemble our card, and I'm going to do that, but first I'm going to speed everything up. I'm going to start by attaching my 2 red matte layers, which are the full size squares, and I'm going to put them down on the bottom left hand side and right hand side, and these are the squares that has the card cut in the middle. Then I'm going to take my little red triangular pieces with the matching papers, and I'm going to stick them down, and I'm using my Stick It roller glue for this. I also will use some Nuvo Glue, and you can use whatever you find easiest. Sometimes I'll use my Nuvo Glue because it gives me a little wriggle room or wiggle room in positioning it, but I'm going to use my tape roller for these. So while I'm putting the card together, I thought I'd share with you why I haven't been posting videos so much in the last month and a half. My husband and I have moved from where we used to live down in County Clare. All my family live down in Clare, literally in the same town. And we have moved up to a lovely town in County Mayo called Ballina, and this is the area where my husband's family are all from. And as much as I love it up here, it's just beautiful scenery and everything. And my dad has gotten sick, and with being away from the family, I've found that very hard because I wanted to be there for everyone as well as, you know, for my dad and to spend time seeing him. So I've been going up and down to Clare from here. And like I said, helping mom and spending time with dad and just doing what needs to be done and, you know, being a daughter. And yeah, that's why I haven't been doing a lot of videos. I have to say my heart hasn't really been in it. I've gotten some great magazines and some great kits, and as much as I'll do a few, I just don't feel, you know, the drive to kind of create at the moment when I'm, you know, dealing with dad not being well. I'm going to jump back to the card now for a little minute. We have our piece of card here measuring 1.5 by 6, and I'm scoring at 3. I'm not going to use the whole 6 inches of this. I'm actually only going to use 4. So if you want to cut a piece of card measuring 1.5 by 4, you can do. You're going to see the reason why I'm not going to use the whole 6 inches of it. Although there is a description on how to make the little piece at the back for your stand, I kind of went with this idea myself. Ghost has just walked into the room. My dog has just popped in to see what I'm at. Anyway, so I'm going to take the white piece of card here, and I'm going to use some of my Nuvo Glue to stick my little drummer boy or my soldier onto the piece of that. In the magazine, they use an Easel style to secure your centerpiece, and you could have done that. You would have put 2 score lines on it, and I might actually do that the next time I make it, but I found this way much simpler, and it worked for me just by sticking that on there like that. At this point I realize I need to get rid of a lot of the bulk from this, so as I said, I'm going to cut this piece down. I'm going to cut it down to 4 inches, so I'm going to take 2 inches off the end of this piece. And I'm just using my trimmer. You can use a scissors or a craft knife, whatever suits you. So I'm going to put some of my Nuvo Glue on this little tab now that we have. And once I have that on that little tab, I'm going to place that down. So I want to make sure that my piece is centered on this base layer here, and that it's going to be able to sit up and down, which it will be able to do. So I'm just adding a bit of pressure there and allowing the glue to set. Now I want to make sure that when my little soldier stands up, that he has something that is going to help with that. And I'm going to use the Have a Cracking Day sentiment, and it's a matching topper. So I've put some 3M foam tape beside that, and I'm going to butt that up against my little soldier piece, and that's going to help it to stand up, because once it's in an envelope for a while it mightn't stand up by itself, but this will help it to. And it'll fold away there won't be very much bulk at all in the card once it's folded away. So I'm just having a look at it here and making sure this is the way I want to go. So I'm going to open my card back up again, and then I'm going to take off the release paper on my sentiment, and I'm going to put it in there, and I'm going to make sure it's butted right up against it. That way it will help my little soldier to stand up. And it won't matter that there's a little overhang on the right and left hand side, because the envelope we make, it does allow a little bit all around, so we do have the space for a little bit of overhang. So I'm just pressing that down now, and there we go. Stands up perfectly, not a bother on it, and it'll lay back down as well once we push it back down. Sits down perfect and stands up perfect. I know it's not the Easel style, which is what they use in the magazine. Claire Buswell is the demonstrator for in the magazine Card Making and Papercraft, but yeah, this works fine for me. I'm really happy with that. So now let's move on to the matte layer that I want to put in the back, because I want to have somewhere to write our sentiment. So my red mat is 3 3/4 by 3 3/4, and my white one is 3.5 by 3.5. I have the matching stamp set that came in the magazine, the Nutcracker, and this is a 9-piece set, and I'm going to use the Prancing Nutcracker, and I'm going to put that in the middle and to the left of my white mat that's there. I am looking at using the Have a Cracking Christmas sentiment, but I think I'll go with something just simple. I'm going to go with the Merry Christmas sentiment that's in there, and I'm going to put that just beside my little nutcracker there like that. Yeah, I think I like that. That's what I'm going to go with for that. I'm going to use a stamp positioner now to stamp my images, and I'm going to use a mini Misty. You can use a stamping block or whatever you prefer, but I'm going to use this because it's my first time using both of these stamps, and I want to make sure that I get a good stamping. So this will help me not to mess it up, and I need all the help I can get. I'm also going to use the Archival ink, and this ink is by Ranger. I love this ink, it's really good for stamping and it gives a great burst stamping. But with most of new stamps you need to season them, so either give them a little rub with a fiber cloth or your hand, or just give it 2 stamps down, and that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm just making sure that I get the positioning of my Merry Christmas straight. There's nothing worse than a wonky sentiment. However, if it is wonky, it just goes to show that it's handmade and not, a multiple printed off card. So yeah, whatever suits you is fine. So I'm going to use my Ranger Archival ink, and I'm going to stamp down my little nutcracker here. And I've stamped it twice, but I've just showed you me doing it one time. So I'm happy with that. I'm going to give it a little blow to make sure it's dried off a little bit. And then I'm going to stick this white layer on top of my red layer. I'm going to use my roller adhesive here to put my white layer down on top of the red layer. Now you can use a liquid glue or double-sided tape, whatever you like. I find sometimes when I'm using a tape like this, it can be hard to make sure and get my border the whole way around even. So if I'm at all in doubt, I will use my Nuvo Glue. But I'm stood up and I'm looking down on what I'm doing, and this is helping. You'll have to excuse, I have a bit of a scratchy throat at the moment. I have a nice cup of Lady Grey tea here beside me that I'm sipping on, so bear with me and my voice. I'm going to put some of my roller adhesive now on the back of this, and I'm going to place that down on the back of our card base, and it's in the bottom right hand corner. So this will sit at the bottom underneath where our topper piece is when the card is sitting up. So it'll be there at the bottom, and at the top then this is where the topper is. Now we have a matte layer underneath, you'll see it just here, there. We could have put our sentiment there, but I prefer it underneath at the bottom like that. So that's our card made. All we need to do now is move on to making our envelope. I have my We Are Memory Keepers envelope punch board here, and I've slowed down what I'm doing. I have a piece of card measuring 6 7/8 by 6 7/8, and you can see the top left hand side of my paper. I am putting that up to the 3.5 inch score line. So that's what you need there for the 4x4 card size. So now what I'm going to do is take my score tool, and I'm going to score down along on my right hand side there. So put the tool in, score down, and then we're going to punch. Now what we need to do is rotate our piece of paper. There we go. So you can see there at the bottom end is where we did our punch and our scoring. So it's the opposite end. Again, my piece of paper is in at the 3.5 inch score line there at the top left. Then I score and punch again, and that's that side done. So now I'm going to just rotate this one time to the left, and the scored line on my paper there under my fingers, that score line is going to match up with the score guide, and that's that little bit that's sticking out from the area where we punch, just where my finger is pointing there. Then we can score down along on the right hand side and punch out our little notch then at the top. Then we need to rotate once, twice, and that will give us the last side that needs to be done. So again, I'm matching up my score line on the left to the little notch there, and then using my scoring tool to score down along the right hand side. Then we'll punch down, and that'll give us our 4th notch on our envelope. So now I'm going to use the reverse punch, and this is going to take the hard point off our 4 corners, and it will round them over. And then once we've that done, we can move our punch board out of the way, and then we can fold and burnish on our score lines. I'm not going to use my bone folder or burnishing tool. I'm going to use my fingers because I'm going to put my card into the center of my envelope. Because my card is bulky, if I do this, it will give me the room inside the envelope to fit my card. I'm going to use some double-sided tape to stick down my 2 sides, and I prefer using the double-sided tape, but you can use your roller adhesive or your liquid glue for this. So I'm just going to make sure that that's down. I'm going to place my card back into the envelope. Lovely. Now I'm going to take off the release paper from my tape. With the card inside, I'm then going to press that down. Lovely. And that's going to allow for the bulk now of our card in the envelope. So our card will go inside, no problem. Perfect. Delighted with that. I'm going to put a little bit of the double-sided tape along the opening part of the envelope. That way, when I use the card and I want to seal the envelope, I'll just peel off the release paper and then it's ready to go. So now finally I have one more thing I want to do. I want to stamp our prancing nutcracker or soldier on the envelope, and I'm going to do that on the middle of the card but to the left hand side. That way between the hand and the foot I'll be able to put the name of the recipient and their address. There we have it, our corner easel card and envelope that we've made ourselves using the lovely papers and ephemera and stamps from the Cardmaking and Papercraft magazine, issue 201, the November magazine. I'd like to thank everyone for watching my video. If you've enjoyed it, you might click on the thumbs up down below and give my video a like. If you'd like to subscribe to my channel, you can hit the subscribe button down below, and you can click on the bell icon so you're notified every time I post a new video. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram. So that's it for now, guys. Until next time, thanks for watching and bye bye.